He came to the United States as a German exchange student, hoping to spend a year improving his English while playing a sport that was still a bit of an afterthought in his home country. More than 40 years later, Detlef Schrempf is still here, having been on the cutting edge of a movement that altered the face of his now international game. From a curiosity at the University of Washington to an NBA All-Star and pop culture mainstay, a man who helped change his own continent by leaving it. Detlef Schrempf on Big Ten Trailblazers. I'm Dave Revson, and welcome to Big Ten Trailblazers, a series of in-depth interviews with former students at current Big Ten universities who have gone on to lead extraordinary lives. Today, I'm joined by Detlef Schrempf, a former University of Washington All-American basketball player who went on to become the first European-raised player ever to make the NBA All-Star game. Detlef, welcome to Big Ten Trailblazers. Really a thrill to sit and talk with you. I start each one of these interviews the same way. The show is called Trailblazers. In what way do you think of yourself as a trailblazer?
Well, thanks, Dave, for having me. Excited for this new era of Big Ten sports. So why do I consider myself a trailblazer? Probably never thought of myself that way. When I came over as an exchange student in high school, I thought about coming here for 1 year, checking out what life was all about and going back to Germany and playing basketball and going to school. It just happened that I ended up staying and making it into the NBA. When you talk about the NBA now, you have a third of them are international players. I was pretty much by myself from Europe for the first few years, and it was just one of those things where you keep grinding and playing along, and all of a sudden you make a career out of it, and later on you inspire others to do the same.
Yeah, it's a remarkable story. I want to start digging into it, and as you alluded to, the story begins in Germany. You're from Leverkusen, Germany. Tell me a little bit about Leverkusen.
Well, for people that don't know where it is, it's pretty central, northwest central in Germany, next to Cologne, which is a big city. But the claim of fame is that we have the Bayer logo, a big cross. That's one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world, Bayer aspirin.
Sure.
It also is the city that probably had the best basketball program, semi-pro program in the country. I call it the Boston Celtics of the 70s and 80s. They won tons of championships. Usually the players were kind of semi-pro, had some pros, Americans, that would come over and play for a season or two. But a very successful program, a very successful youth program. And I was fortunate to enter there and start my basketball career.
Like most European kids, you grew up playing soccer. Tell me about your soccer career.
As soon as you can walk, you kick a soccer ball, right? So I grew up on that, joined a club that was just down the street from where we lived, played there until I was about 13. I was average height and then started growing. So I went from a right wing player, offensive player, to a right middle field, to a right defender, and my last year was in goal. So maybe it was an indication that I was getting taller and slower.
Where was the next place they were going to move?
Yeah,
right?
Bench probably, I don't know. But, and I realized if you've been to Germany in the wintertime, it's kind of like here. Back then we had a lot of snow. I realized I did not want to be a goalie, standing in that goal when it's snowing or raining. Pure luck, I changed schools in 10th grade, and my PE teacher was John Ecker, who played at UCLA, and he introduced me to basketball.
What a crazy connection. Like, how was it that he ended up teaching PE in Leverkusen, Germany?
He was married to Heidi Rosenthal. I think they connected at some event. I don't know if it was the Olympics, but they ended up marrying. He came and played in Germany for my home team. John eventually stayed, played many years for the team, became German, he became a German citizen. and raised a family there. And just by luck, he was my PE teacher for that, 1 or 2 years and introduced me to the sport I love. You got to think about a PE class in high school, 10th grade or 11th, I can't remember, but nobody was very good at it. And so I had a little bit of success because I started to grow. I was a little taller and I was athletic. And a friend of mine I played soccer with left the soccer club and went to join TuS 04 Bayer Leverkusen, the basketball team. And he was also in my class, and he said, why don't you just come to a basketball practice? And I just tried it out and enjoyed it, found some early success as an awkward, young teenager, and said, maybe this is the way to go.
What was the reaction, or your friends in particular?
Basketball was not well known, and we had this very small culture of people that played, and it was kind of like a family setting.
Tell me about the coaching that you got at this club level.
My first coach and my only coach in the youth program was Otto Reinches, who played on the first Bundesliga team, the semi-pro team. He's probably the only reason I'm here where I am today. He was that mentor, that example that, you hope your kids will have, right? He was kind of forward thinking. We did stuff no other team was doing. We did running and jumping training and cross training and weight training. And he really, he did some things that looking back now were kind of really forward thinking that maybe teams are doing now that nobody was doing back then. He engaged the team. We became a family, hung out at his house, babysat his 2 girls. It was that kind of relationship that, empowered me to think that, hey, there's something I can do with this.
When we return,
I was going to go back to Germany. Nobody had scholarship available because nobody had scouted me. Then all of a sudden we win a state tournament. I win MVP. People going, who is this guy?
So you're playing with your club team in Germany. What prompts you to explore the possibility of coming to the United States?
So around 16, I was arguably the best player at my age in Germany. I was practicing with my youth team, with the youth team above me, and I played on the 3rd division senior team and practiced with the Bundesliga team. So I was going, okay, where else can I go? At that point, there were a couple players in our club that had gone to the States for a year as an exchange student. So they came back and they were definitely improved. They were more mature. They've had a life experience. So I started, thinking about coming to the States to play my senior year of high school basketball here and learn English. I figured some people would like it, some wouldn't. My coach, Otto, said, hey, great experience, you should do it. And you come back and play again here or, however it turns out. And so I pursued that, talked to the 2 guys that played at our club from UCLA, and they go, we have a school for you, you're going to LA. And I just could never get the paperwork from him. I could never get the coach's name. And then my backup was this other guy, Thomas, who had gone to Centralia High School here in the state of Washington 2 years before. And he was playing on the Bundesliga team, on the bench, played 6th, 7th man or so. And that's how I ended up in Centralia.
Tell me a little bit about how you corresponded with the people in Centralia. I mean, so was it a traditional exchange program? Did you just write to some administrator and say, I'm a German student, I want to come be an exchange student? Like, how did this come to pass?
Yeah, great question, because I didn't really know at the time that there were programs like that. I just knew that a couple other players had gone to the States. I got the coach's name and address from Thomas. I wrote the coach a letter, told him I'm interested in coming for a year, told him I was 6'4" and a half and played basketball and been doing this for a few years. 2 weeks later, I got a letter back saying, we'd welcome you, would love to have you, and here's the paperwork you have to fill out. So again, this took about 3 months, right?
Yeah.
Writing back and forth.
Right.
Can't imagine
the old
that.
days. Yeah.
But he got it all done within about 3 weeks. Sent the paperwork back at a student visa. now I try to find a flight, and I'd worked that summer for my dad in construction and bought an airline ticket and told my parents I needed another 50 Deutschmarks, which was about $20 at the time, to pay for the airline ticket because I didn't have enough.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Where are you going?" "I'm going to the States for 1 year." And
You hadn't even mentioned it to them?
No, because they were not involved in sports, right? They didn't even know what basketball was. They'd never seen me play. And so I told them, and they go, "Okay." And that's how it ended up. So, and my coach took me to the airport, and I took one of those never come back airline flights, right? From, I think it was Frankfurt to Iceland to Detroit to here. It took like 35 hours.
So you get to Centralia, Washington. For those who aren't familiar with Centralia, Washington, give us a sense for this town.
Well, if you drive from Seattle to Portland, it's about halfway on I-5. It's a freeway stop. Great high school, great coach. Coach Ron Brown coached there for, I want to say, 56 years. And he coached the same way. Every player had to know every position, and you had to play as unselfishly as possible. So it was a good fit for me. I got lucky. I got there. We were a team that had, I think, 10 or 11 seniors on the squad, and we won the state championship undefeated. So it was a fun ride because you're in a small town. You know, the gym held maybe 1,500 people, and there'd be 2,000 people in there, you know, every game. And that was the attraction, and we had a great year. It was fun. It was definitely different than Germany, where as a 17-year-old, I was an adult. Here, you're obviously not.
You just happen upon Centralia, Washington. And yet, as you mentioned, I mean, Ron Brown was a legendary coach. You know, it's interesting, you kind of talk about coaching along the way, starting with a gym teacher who had played at UCLA, and then Otto Reinschis, who you say was incredibly influential, maybe the most influential person basketball-wise in your life. And then you end up with a certified, one of the great coaches in the history of the state of Washington in high school basketball. Have you thought about just how crazy those circumstances are?
Oh, totally. You know, luck plays a big role in your fate, I believe so. I was lucky to come to Centralia. People go, "Holy cow, you ended up in Centralia? I could have been in LA." And I go, "Yeah, I could have been a beach bum in LA, you know, because I fit right in, you know, long blonde hair and loved the water." No, I was very fortunate, and, you know, everything kind of fell into place once I made that move from being a troubled teenager, you know, playing soccer that nothing was going well, to basketball. And ever since then, it's been a great ride. I was going to go back to Germany. Nobody had scholarship available because nobody had scouted me. Then all of a sudden we win a state tournament. I win MVP. People going, "Who is this guy?" And, you know, and then Marv Harshman comes in last minute. Literally, going back to Germany a week later, and he goes, "Some kid didn't make the SAT or something, or we have a scholarship if you want it." That was his pitch. All right, so again, it all fell into place.
When you come back to campus here at the University of Washington, being as close as you are, something you get to do fairly frequently, what are the memories that come to mind?
Well, a lot of memories from back when, right? Even like walking across this bridge, and I lived in the dorms up there, and walking across, it's dark, it's wet, your clothes don't hold back the rain, you're hungry, you know, you're worried about classes, all those things. But more so now when I come, I show people the campus, right? I've had friends that said, "Hey, my son or my daughter are interested in visiting." And I go, "Okay, I'll hook you up with somebody, but I'll show you just the entrance, and you know, I told you earlier to go up just that little street up there, and the cherry blossom is in full effect. It's just gorgeous, right? I always say Seattle in the sunshine, there's nothing better. I mean, look at it.
And it shines 365 days a year, right?
Always. That's why everyone should move here. I know.
Tell me a little bit about Marv Harshman, I know he's a legendary figure. I mean, when he retired at the end of your career, it obviously coincided with your last game. He was the winningest active coach in all of college basketball, which I'm not sure a lot of people would have known. But tell me a bit about him, and aside from his non-pitch pitch to you, kind of what you knew about him and what the impression was of what it would be like to play at Washington.
I didn't know much about anyone or any school. Coach Brown, my high school coach, and Marv Harshman did an annual summer camp in Centralia that they had done like maybe 3-4 years before that, and they continued to do that for another 20 years after. Coach Brown told me about Marv and who he is and what he stands for and how he coaches. Again, fit in with my style, that everyone had to know every position, you had to play as a team. But I didn't really think much about the team. I didn't know anybody. I came to visit the campus, and if you've ever been to the University of Washington campus, that's all you need to see.
Yes. Easy sell there.
Easy sell. I think it might have been the day before I left for Germany, on the way to the airport or something. I went and they showed me the campus for the day, and I said, wow. That was the best choice as far as if I wanted to play college from an education standpoint and from the league, obviously at the time, the Pac-10 versus the other options I had. And I think that day I told the other coaches, there were 2 coaches that I was talking to, that I'm going to go to the UW. And one said, congrats, good luck. The other one said, you're making a big mistake, you're not good enough.
It's hard to believe it now, again, given the way that college athletics, professional athletics have changed. But at the time, a European player playing college basketball in the United States was very unusual. I mean, you think Uwe Blab obviously was playing in the Big Ten. Obviously, Christian Welp joined you. But I mean, you could like count them on 1 or 2 hands. Were you a curiosity here? Like, did people find that to be strange that you had come from Germany and you were playing college basketball?
Probably not here, on campus, but definitely going elsewhere. I remember we played Duke. My senior year at Duke, we beat them my junior year in the NCAA tournament, so the next year we played at Duke. And I walked in, and the whole student section were doing the Heil Hitler thing, right? And Coach K came out, and he just, how what Coach K is, he went at him and said, don't you guys ever do that. But stuff like this happened across, the country or the league. If we played, people would come out and, say something about European players, or even the media would go, oh, European players are soft, or they can't do this, they can't do that. I heard a lot of that because, I was kind of the only one until Chris came and played with me.
Yeah.
Even the NBA, the same story for the first few years, right? So, it was a little bit of a lonely road at the time.
Let's dive into the teams you had here. Your freshman year, you kind of came into a senior-laden team. You were briefly ranked in the top 20. Tell me a bit about your first experience of college basketball, the level that you were playing at, and how you felt like you fit in.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously came into a team that had some talent, played in a pretty good league in the Pac-10. We had, I think, 3 or 4 seniors that started, I think 4. So it was hard to find playing time. I did manage to, ended up being like the 6th, 7th man and played maybe 15 minutes a game. I realized physically I had a long ways to go. I probably came in at 190, 95 pounds, very skinny. And here are guys, like Kenny Lyles, who was our center at 6'7", but built like a truck. Yeah. And Dan Caldwell, who played kind of the same position, it was like 6'8", 230. So I realized that physically I was not ready at this level. Again, I was a late bloomer, I was still growing.
Well, you were a soft European.
Yeah, soft for sure. Yeah. But it was competitive, it was physical, and I truly enjoyed that year, just getting to know what college basketball is all about.
Your junior year is when it really took off, and part of that was Chris Velp joined you in the off-season. And I guess I'm just curious, again, it was such an oddity to have European players. You end up with a second player also from Germany. To what extent were you involved in getting Chris here?
Actually, not at all until he did a recruiting trip, because he went, same thing. He came as an exchange student. Actually, I think he used a program for it and ended up in an Olympic high school down here in Olympia. Was the best player in the state, you know, the 7-footer that can really, had a great touch, and was recruited, and I think I met him on the recruiting trip for the first time. And then that summer we played together on the national team. Obviously a great addition to our team. I mean, he was, you know, one of the best Pac-10 players ever.
Right.
And we had a front line of him at 7 feet, 6'10" for me, and Paul Fortier at 6'9", and our shooting guard was 6'4", and our senior year, our starting guard was 6'4". But you know, so we had a huge team, bigger than most NBA teams.
At what point did you realize going into your junior year that you guys could be pretty good?
I didn't really know until we started the season, started playing, and we just had so much fun. You know, we had a good friend, point guard Alvin Vaughn, who just made basketball fun. We played a lot of rat ball. That's where we enjoyed basketball, where we played all over the city, and we took that onto the court. And Marv didn't always like it, but he couldn't really, you know, say much because we were winning. And we had a lot of fun that year.
So what didn't he like specifically?
A run and gun.
Okay.
You know,
was he more of a defensive coach? I mean, was that kind of his forte?
He was very much half court, you know, set up, execute, use our size, you know, run some picks, throw the ball in the post. And I like to run, so I would get the rebound, just start dribbling the ball as fast as I could, and he would go pass the ball to Alvin, pass the ball to Alvin. I would, you know, I just kept dribbling because that's how we played pickup ball.
Yeah.
And, you know, make the right play most of the time. But he grew to learn it. To love it, because we were so successful doing it.
So you get to the NCAA tournament, you get to play in Pullman, so you're in your home state. You beat Nevada, and then you beat Duke. And that was kind of the very beginning of the Coach K era. But I mean, this is Johnny Dawkins and Tommy Amakram. This is a really good team. Tell me about that game in particular.
You know, it's a lifetime ago, so I don't remember that much, but no, we were not favorite. But we played really well, and that's really all I remember. We shot a great percentage from the floor, held our own on the boards, but yeah, I don't remember much past that.
And that intervening summer was the 1984 Olympics, correct?
Yes.
And you played for the German national team, and that was the Los Angeles Olympics. Tell me about that experience.
The village was just amazing, seeing all the athletes. You know, I remember always Carl Lewis and the track stars were like literally next door to us. And, you know, they come walk out and we walk out and they go, there's Carl Lewis, fastest man in the world, right? Stuff like this was just amazing, seeing all these athletes from all over the world and talking to them about their experiences.
What was the actual experience of playing with that team like?
So Chris and I were the young ones. We had a pretty, I would say, senior team. We had some, you know, guys that played on the German national team for years, that been there, that had pretty good careers in Europe. And I was maybe a little bit too aggressive with them because I thought we could do a little bit better. Yeah. So we played well, started out playing really well, and then we played the U.S. and everyone has lost, you know, the games by 30 or so, and I think we lost by 11. And so our guys were like, "Hey, we're so far, you know, best team that played against the States. We did pretty well." And I know like 3-4 guys went out that night, you know, and then the next day we got clobbered by somebody. I can't remember who that we should have beaten, and I was so pissed because that was a medal round. If we had, you know, won a couple more games, we could have been playing for a medal. And I don't remember. I think we finished 5th, but we missed that medal round game to go into the, you know, to go forward. And I was pretty pissed at him. So we had a pretty good team. I thought we had a chance to win a medal that year.
Still to come.
I was pretty much told Atlanta would draft me.
Okay.
But then when Seattle didn't pick me and Atlanta didn't pick me, I had no idea where I was going.
This was a different time, so NBA draft, it's not like you could log onto a computer and see what people were thinking. But at what point did you begin to realize that you were a legitimate NBA prospect?
Oh, my junior year, when I was competing against some of the best players in the world, not just here in the States, but internationally. I would go back and play for the German national team. I realized that, yes, I can play professional basketball. I'm going to get drafted, and I actually thought about going hardship my junior year because Coach Marv Harshman's contract was up and the school was talking about not rehiring him for my senior year. So I went public and says, well, if Marv is not coming back, I'm going to the NBA. I'm declaring for the draft. So then he signed a one-year deal, which allowed, me to play under him for those 4 years, which was very important to me. I knew I was going to be drafted in the first round, probably a lottery pick, which then, after the season, I was pretty sure I was going to be a lottery pick, top 10 pick.
So you had that final season, as you mentioned, it didn't go exactly how you wanted it to. You guys bowed out to Kentucky in the first round of the NCAA tournament. And as you said, it's Marv's last game, and everyone knew that it was Marv's last game. What do you remember about the post-game scene? Again, the winningest active coach in college basketball has coached his final game.
It was disappointing. I think there were some tears in the locker room. I realized that it was over. It was a sad moment to finish your college career after 4 years like that, where you kind of lost early, and it's over. And I think I left within a week. I dropped out of school because I went to Europe to play, for the spring and the summer to compete in the European Championships. So I was literally gone right away after, and so didn't really know what happened after that with Marv right away. But they, I think, announced fairly quickly that they're not rehiring him for another year.
The Dallas Mavericks select Detlef Schrempf of the University of Washington.
You end up being picked in the lottery by Dallas, a team that hadn't really interacted with you a great deal prior to the draft, correct?
Not at all. Not at all. I think I talked to everyone in the top 10 except for New York, which was obviously going to pick Patrick Ewing, and Dallas. So Seattle was up there, obviously, and there was some communication that possibly they could draft me. I played in the European Championship, and Mike Fratello was the coach for Atlanta, and he actually came and spent a day with us, saw a game, had dinner with myself and my wife. At the time, we weren't married. And I was pretty much told Atlanta would draft me.
Yeah.
But then when Seattle didn't pick me and Atlanta didn't pick me, I had no idea where I was going.
He was the czar of the telestrator, but not the czar of the draft.
And now he told me later that it wasn't his choice.
Tell me a bit about playing for Dick Motta.
Dick Motta, what he brought was a process-oriented, disciplined approach, especially on the offensive end. Defensively, I still don't know what we did. It was just play man-to-man and, go from there. But offensively, in those days, my first training camp, rookies had to show up 5 days before the veterans, and we had 6 weeks before the first regular season game, and we had 2-a-days every day except for 2 days for 6 weeks. Now with that 2-a-days, 3 days, 4 days in the NBA, I was never so worn out in my whole life. And then the veterans would always take a session off here and there, but as a rookie, you couldn't. But we could run our offense. I still remember the offense to this day. You could run the play asleep. You know exactly what the timing was, where you had to be. We ran it every day for, forever. And so offensively, we were very efficient, and we were good. We made the Western Conference Finals I want to say third year. So we had a pretty good team.
I know you were frustrated when you were in Dallas by your playing time or lack thereof. How did you handle that kind of adversity that was being thrown at you?
Probably not well. I mean, you know, you're an All-American, in college, you can not do whatever you want to, but I had a lot of freedom. You know, like I said, I can grab a rebound and push it and break the offense and do something different. And you get there and you had to earn your minutes. I had Mark Aguirre playing in front of me, who, you know, played 35 minutes and scored 25 points. Played some two guards. So it was Rolando Blackman, who was an all-star. Sam Perkins, who came in the year before me, played the power forward position. So those are three positions I could play. Probably small forward was, you know, my main position, but I didn't, you know, I try to fill in. So I tried to be a shooting guard, a small forward, a power forward. You know, I tried to just fit in where I could. It was hard that first year. The second year, I was, you know, thinking, well, one more year of this, and I might go back to Europe. And then, I start getting consistent minutes. But, you know, as a rookie, you were treated differently, especially back in those days. You know, Dick Motta had the rookie rules. He hated rookies.
What were the rookie rules?
Oh, you know, Mark had a tendency to sit out a few games here and there. Like he didn't like playing against Houston with the Twin Towers because he played on a low post a lot. So he sit out a lot of games against Houston. So Dick Motta would come up and say, "You be ready tonight. You're going to play at least 30 minutes because I'm not sure Mark can go. He's not feeling well." And then he wouldn't play me a single minute. I didn't enjoy that part. So I was pretty bitter at times my first year, you know, and then I go play pickup ball.
Yeah, I read you were so frustrated with your playing time that you would literally go find a pickup game. Like,
oh yeah,
where does an NBA player go find a pickup game?
Oh, I'd go anywhere. I'd beat somebody up at a lunch hour or something just to play, you know. But no, I'd be on the road. I played at Georgetown. We played, you know, Baltimore and something, and I wasn't playing much the night before. I'd go play a pickup game at the university or something like that. Yeah, I always find a spot.
I read, too, that you would sometimes jog back to the hotel. Is that?
Yeah, I would be pissed. So instead, I'd just take my stuff. I'm running back. Oh, I had an attitude. I'm not saying it was pretty.
Was there a sense of awe at all when you're out there? I mean, like, did you always feel like you belonged? Were you trying to prove yourself, or was there ever kind of the, what is this kid from Leverkusen, Germany, doing here?
Oh yeah, I think that drove most of it, right? The insecurity of not feeling like you belong. My first game, I was a little bit in awe because of, you know, again, I didn't really have a childhood NBA star to look up to, but once I came here and watched a few games, you know, I was a huge Dr. J fan. So my first preseason game, I got to start in Dallas, and we played Philadelphia. Moses Malone and Julius Erving. I'm guarding Julius and, you know, running down the court and you know, 5 minutes into the game, you know, we're running on a kind of fast break, and Mo Cheeks has the ball on the other side, and he just throws it towards the rim. I'm going, what is he doing? You know, so I'm jumping, and I think I have it, and the ball keeps going, and Dr. J grabs it and dunks it right over my head, right? And I'm going, oh. And running back down, and Moses is yelling something at me. Yeah, you better, you know, white boy, better watch out. Dr. J gonna get here. Something. It was hilarious, right? And I'm going, okay. And then start of the second half, again, Dick Motta set. We run this set, and it's a slip pick, and I slip it, and I get a perfect pass, and I just cock it and dunk left-handed. And Julius tries to block it, and the ball hits him right in the head. And ball, you know, goes out, and Moses Malone goes, "Oh, Doc, he got you good." He goes, "White boy can play," and, you know. And I go, "Welcome to the NBA," right? So he got me really good. I got him right back, and I go, "Oh, I belong here."
So after your third year at Dallas, you got traded, 1989, going to the Pacers. Your second full year in Indy, you win the NBA Sixth Man of the Year. What did that accomplishment mean to you?
Well, I think it showed a little bit of maturity that I could come off the bench and not be mad about it. But also, I was playing a lot of minutes. I think I was playing second or third most minutes on the team. And it was a role I cherished because it gave me so much freedom. I could watch the game for the first 3, 4, 5, 6 minutes, however long it took, and see what was needed, whether it was, grabbing rebounds or changing the tempo of the game, or, or scoring if we were struggling there, okay, let's be more aggressive there. And I embraced that.
The next year you become a starter. You made the All-Star game for the first time, first of 3 NBA All-Star games that you made. And with that, you became, as we mentioned off the top, the first European-raised player ever to make the NBA All-Star game. Were you cognizant of that milestone at the time?
I didn't realize it until probably media day at the All-Star game, and all the international media came out and mentioned that, right? Again, in those days, there was a very small community of international players. Once you start seeing all these players come over the years, and I was kind of going, wow, it would have been a lot easier to have that community and kind of relate and say, remember when we played against each other in Bulgaria? And then, remember this tournament, which I later on did when I played with Sabas in Portland. We talked about tournaments we played in all over Europe and how bad some of them were.
You got traded to the Sonics just before the 1994 season. What did it mean to you to come back to the Pacific Northwest and specifically to Seattle?
Oh, it means everything, because this is where our home is. But at the time, it was hard to swallow because, we had 2 little babies. We were in Indiana, bought a new house, put a pool in the backyard because we were told we'd be there forever. Reggie and you are going to be here forever. And then, the day before, they go, well, we traded you. But you're going to love it. You're going to Seattle. I go, yes, I will love it. But right now, it's, So it's, again, you can look at it both ways. You can look at it that a team doesn't want you, or you can look at another team really wants you. I looked at it as a great opportunity to come back here, get back into the community, play for a team that has a chance to win a championship. So it was great to come back home.
You played really well here. You made 2 All-Star games, but I think probably most importantly, I would think, was the opportunity to play in the NBA Finals. You got there. Tell me a little bit first about the Game 7 win against Utah that won you guys the Western Conference Finals and got you to the NBA Finals.
Utah, as you know, they were tough. Karl Malone, John Stockton, and the rest of the group, they were tough, especially at home. And so that was a bloodfest. In those days, there were elbows and fouls and all that. And it took 7 games, and we walked out of there pretty elated. I remember we won the game, and everyone came down on the court, and it was like, yes, we're into the finals. But we also, at the same time, we were new to the finals, and I think it took us a little while to wake up. So we were just so ecstatic. We won this series. We're bloody. We're beat up, and boom, we flew right to Chicago the next day, and that we weren't ready.
Tell me about that experience of playing against Jordan and Pippen and that whole crew in the NBA Finals.
Yeah, it was great. It's another level. At that point, we weren't the Chicago Bulls, but when we traveled, it was chaos. You go into a hotel, there's a line of people. You walk out after a game, there's a line of people. The finals took it to a whole nother level. And we thought we had a chance, especially the first 2 games. We didn't play well, but we had a chance of winning either one, but then put ourselves in a big hole.
17-year NBA career. How would you summarize your career?
I would say I got just about everything out of this body I could. I love the game. If I could play basketball today, I would play every day. It's the greatest game in the world. It gives you so much satisfaction, and not just scoring a bucket, but making a play and interacting with people. It's social, it's competitive. And I wish everyone would have an athletic experience, whatever degree that is, that gives you a satisfaction in life because it empowers you to do other things.
What's your favorite memory?
Favorite memory in basketball?
Yeah.
Wow. There are lots of favorite memories, but, I would say probably being on that court in the 7th game with Utah where everyone's coming down families running down, my wife with our kids running down, and everyone hugging, and just being that having that community feel of not just people on the court, but everyone around it, the staff, everyone. We were pretty much a family.
Next.
When you give yourself to this community and commit, the community commits to you forever.
You seem not to take yourself too seriously, not just in person, but on social media as well. Tell me about the kind of pluses and minuses of being a public figure on social media.
Yeah, I try to enhance the good, but sometimes that might not come across quite like it. You know, I'm here to, if I see something positive, I want to amplify that. And then, you know, share some funny stories. You know, I usually sit in a tight airplane seat, so I have a lot of pictures of me, you know, trying to fit into a seat because I travel a lot. But again, everything is about trying to be kind to one another, and we can all take a little bit more of that.
Yeah, we could use a little bit more of that in this day and age. Well, I'm sure everyone will follow you, and this will be the beginning of a transformation of our social media culture.
An
right
influencer,
here.
right there.
So one of the interesting pursuits post-retirement was you did a little acting. You're in Parks and Rec. You're in several episodes of Parks and Rec, and in fact, it was somewhat distressing to me when I told people I was coming to interview you, and they're like, well, that's the guy on Parks and Rec, right? I'm like, no, wait, I mean, yes, but you know, he's a 3-time NBA All-Star. But how did that come about? I mean, it seems like, honestly, kind of a random deal that you would be on there.
Yes and no. And to comment on that, it's like usually when I go somewhere now, like a restaurant, and you know, there's 20-something, 30-something hostess, and he or she would say, oh, I know you. And I go, here it comes. There's two ways this could go.
Yes.
One is, I used to watch you when I sat on my dad's lap, you know, or the other one is, you were in Parks and Rec. And nowadays, most of it is Park and Rec.
Yeah.
And I'm going, I was in 3 episodes. The way it happened was the first season was underway, and they kind of like were probably not getting picked up. So they said, okay, we're going to bring in some celebrities to do a telethon. And my name popped up, and they reached out to my foundation and made the ask. And so my executive director, Nicole, comes to me and says, do you want to do this? I go, what is it? I have no idea.
Yeah.
So I watched a couple shows. I go, oh, odd humor. I kind of like it. So they said, okay, well, you'll present a big check, and Amy Poehler will say Detlef Schrempf Foundation. I go, okay, I'll do it.
We talk about your fame, and some of it is NBA related, some of it is Parks and Rec related. Some of it is Band of Horses related, right? They named a song after you. My former colleague at ESPN, Dan Patrick, could not resist having a lot of fun with your name over every highlight. Watching a golf tournament, and some guy pulls the ball, and they say he hit it dead left Schrempf.
Yeah.
Why do people have this fascination, do you think, with your name?
Well, you know, it just rolls off the tongue, right? I always like to say I would like to buy a vowel for my last name because nobody can pronounce it right. You did actually an amazing job. But it's usually like Scrumps, no, roll the R, you know. And,
okay.
But yeah, I have no idea. I think it all, again, fell into place. Dan Patrick picked it up. Actually, David Letterman, you know, when I was in Indiana, he would call out my name on his show multiple times. And I've never been on a show, never been invited, right? But he'd call out my names because he was, I guess, a Pacer fan, right? Yeah. That's how it started. And then Dan Patrick started on SportsCenter. But other than that, I have no idea. Band of Horses I know for sure because I talked to Ben, the lead singer. They were here. You know, they moved from South Carolina to here to do, you know, grunge, right? That was a big time, and they struggled for like 10 years. They were big basketball fans, so they used to come to games, and the way they write a song, they put a Sonic's name on the song title, and they write the song, and then they go in the studio and rename the song based on what the song is about.
Yes.
But that song was so eerie and different, they couldn't really come up with what should we title this, so they left it in my name. And people were going, oh, this has to do with your life, this has to do with the Sonics leaving, and it has nothing to do with me. but it has my name on it.
Yeah, it's a little melancholy. Yeah. Do you like the fact that your name, I don't want to say it's become a punchline, but I mean, to a certain extent, it has. Like, your name is intensely personal, right? I mean, I think of someone's name and it's
Don't
it's
know
their
too
identity.
many others.
I mean, but I'm saying, does it bother you? Do you like it, or do you just not give it any thought?
I think growing up with it, I wish I had a different name. For anybody, like, nowadays, it's like every child that's named is spelled differently than what you think it should be. So, I had to spell my name my whole life. I still do. And, I always wish, that's why we named our children Michael and Alex, because we're like, yeah, we don't want you having to go through this, right? You're going to have to spell your last name.
Yes.
And multiple times because they'll never get it right. So, I don't think much about it. I think in this market here, it's definitely a plus because I do have brand recognition and people understand what I stand for. Overall, in the rest of the world, unless you're a basketball fan or I guess a Park and Rec fan, it doesn't mean anything.
You mentioned this market. You did a ton of charitable work here. What are you proudest of on that front?
You know what I'm proud of, and I tell our young student athletes this all the time, is, when you give yourself to this community and commit, the community commits to you forever. Tell that to our student athletes. If you want to be here and you commit and you come back anytime in life, somebody will open a door for you. And I think that's what we have here. We have a community that really cares, not just dollar-wise. I think when you look at gifting across the United States, where's the most money gifted? Seattle's always up there because we obviously have a lot of wealth has been created and it's being created, but people care about their community. And I feel like, I've got lucked into being in the States and going to high school here and then ending up at this university, that a large part of our community is connected through this school. And it's, it's home. And that's what it feels like. It's a family. And whether it's here on the football field, the basketball arena, or whatever. And that's important to me.
What do you think the lesson is in your story?
My goal is pretty simple. I think the number one line is to be kind to one another. And the next one is to leave whatever you touch in a better place than when you found it. Can't always accomplish that, but if you try that, at least you set forth, the right foot and try to make a difference. I hope people will think of me as a positive impact in our community, that we as a family were able to make a difference, and drive some change.
Well, this has been so enjoyable for me. Thank you so much for taking the time out. Detlef Schrempf, it's been such a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.